I want to welcome Mr. Igor Koske, who, as I've said in previous Auto Insider podcasts, I was going to borrow from David Letterman and say my next guest needs no introduction. But the truth of the matter is, nobody knows Igor. Okay, we all know Igor from the comment sections of our website, of our community, when we do live broadcasts. But hardly anybody really actually knows Igor. And Igor, I want to first just thank you for agreeing to be a part of this podcast. It means the world to me.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on the podcast as well. I'm enjoying every little bit of what you guys do, and I'm here to answer whatever questions you guys have, or tell you
Well,
any story you guys would want to hear.
well, I think the first story that people might want to hear is just give us a little bit of background as to exactly who you are. If I remember correctly, you immigrated to this country from Russia.
From Soviet Ukraine. It was a state of
Okay, Ukraine.
Soviet Union.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
from Odessa. I came to America in 1988. If you don't mind me jumping in.
No, I would love it.
Yeah, okay. Came to United States from Soviet Union, Soviet Ukraine in 1988. Came to New York, lived with my family, went to school, worked for my uncle in sort of body shop, repair shop, slash two, three cars outside the shop for sale. Not a dealership,
Uh huh.
just few cars, and been helping him selling cars, pushing the idea that we need to get more into cars, and we'll have successful uh, car, little used car dealership going. And I succeeded. I brought up about the unit, 10 units, 15 units a month, that we were buying, fixing, and selling, and it was consistent. And then I decided to go into my own, do something on my own. So I partnered up with my best friend, and we opened up exotic cars, buy here, pay here a lot, where we had about, yeah, 30 to 40 cars, and that worked out extremely well. Extremely, it was awesome business concept, and I could get into how that works, how buy here pay here works, because it's very interesting, and most people don't even understand the concept. How it's completely different from any other dealership concept that you have. But running that dealership for about 2 years while I was in college, which I dropped out of, by the way, because I was making so much money that I realized that with my degree, even with the degree in the field that I was studying for, I will never make that kind of money. And decided to become a car guy full time rather than a student and pursuing the career with my degree. And worked for a couple of dealerships here and there for other people. Started off as a salesperson, worked my way up to management, finance director, GSM, GM, uh, then district finance manager, who was traveling around entire uh, dealer group, overseeing every finance office, and then was given an opportunity to buy the store with a team that I was working at a dealership, which is an interesting story. And if you want, I could tell you all about it.
Before you do that, let me ask you one silly question, if I may, because
Sure, sure.
you said you dropped out of college. Now,
Yes.
were your parents thrilled when you said to them, "Mom, Dad,
No,
I'm dropping out of college because I'm making so damn much money in the
no.
car business. You're going to be proud of me. I'm selling cars for a living."
Yeah, they weren't happy. I was first kid in my family to actually get into college, and I got
Uh
into
huh.
college for free, which was a blessing in the sky. I got accepted to Lehigh University because I was a wrestler, and
Okay.
Lehigh is located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
And isn't that where Lee Iacocca went to school, if I'm not
I think
mistaken?
so. I think so.
Yeah.
but I did great there. I mean, other than partying, really, I didn't do much. So I did great there. I was a fraternity brother. I got accepted in the fraternity my second year, and as a sophomore, and I just had a blast. I mean, it was nothing but partying. So my parents were, you're not doing well in your schooling. You're not pursuing your career. All you're doing is selling cars and hanging out with your fraternity brothers. You need to straighten your butt up and do something. This country all about college degree and blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, mom, this country is all about being a successful business person, and building something of yourself and create. So I
I I
convinced them. It worked out,
I
thank God.
know. It did for you. It
Yeah,
did
it could
indeed.
have totally
I
went the
know.
other way.
My father was a dentist, and he actually ultimately gave up dentistry to go into the vending machine business. But coming from a Jewish family, it was instilled in me as a very small child. You are to learn, you are to go to college, that you are to pick up something professional to do. And when I dropped out and went into the car business, my mother had already passed away, but my father was not very thrilled with me when I said, "Yeah, gee, Dad, I'm selling cars for a living, and that's how I'm going to make my living the rest of my life." That he didn't want to hear that.
Of course not. I mean,
Yeah.
my son tried a car business. He went and worked for AutoNation for like a year or so. And I
Uh huh.
told him, kiddo, this is not what I worked my butt off so you could be in the car business. I want you to go to college and, get yourself a professional job, become somebody. He's like, no, Dad, I'm going to do what I got to do. And I don't care what you say. He's doing his own thing. He's into rental car companies and a little exotic car business down in Florida right now. He moved to Tampa.
Okay.
So
Now, obviously, you ended up having a really, really successful career.
thank you.
You were you were part of Prime Automotive Group,
Correct.
which was a really large dealer group
Thanks to
the
me.
thanks to you
Yeah,
in the Northeast, basically the Massachusetts area. If I
correct. Well, some
okay,
dealerships in New York, Staten Island, actually, where you guys were.
okay,
We had two
okay,
dealerships in Staten Island. We had a couple of dealerships in New Hampshire, Vermont, even one in Maine. We were all over New England.
gotcha. And what do you have, like 30, 40 stores?
42. But when I sold, it was
42.
42. 42 stores and three collision centers.
Oh my goodness. And if memory serves correctly, you sold part of it to, what was it, Group
30.
1?
Yeah, 30 to Group 1 and 12 to, well, actually 10 to Ira, which is also
Okay.
part of Group 1, but he's got a side automotive dealerships that he
And
does.
you sold those stores, what was it, 2 years ago?
Yes,
And
for
and
about a little over a billion.
America is a great country.
Excellent country. Excellent
um
country. Which brings me
I,
back to why other dealers were doing it 2 years ago. It's because of valuations. Because if I were to sell the same dealerships now, I would maximum probably get 600, 700 at the most.
wow.
So difference is
Um
tremendous.
and as somebody who started really at the bottom in the car business. I mean, you were helping to
Extremely
fix
on the
cars.
bottom.
Yes, and you got out on top. Um, what do you see, if I may, as the future of retail automotive is? Well, you and I both have always known it to be. What do you think the future holds for that?
Last time I spoke to Zach, it was crystal clear, and I had a crystal ball in my hand, and I was giving them, market is going to do this and market is going to do that. I've changed my mind on quite a bit, in quite of many things. Uh, it's obviously not clear. But
Mm-hmm.
we'll never. One thing I'll tell you, we'll never have the same market we had before the pandemic. Things will never be the same. We'll have less inventory at dealerships. No more 150, 200 cars on day supply. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Used cars are going to be up. They they'll come down in value from where they are now, but they'll never be at the same level where they used to be. You know what I mean? And big sign of it is the fact that MSRPs are going up. So the higher MSRP go up, obviously cars will depreciate even at the same, even if it's going to be the same rate depreciation as before, they're still going to
Mm-hmm.
reach higher mark uh, on retail value on as far as used because of a higher MSRP that they're starting from. So
Yeah, because it had a much higher starting point.
correct, correct.
It's almost as if nothing will ever be affordable again. Uh,
It's beginning to look like that already. Honestly, I mean, I wouldn't be able to hack it if I lived a normal life, which I am. I mean, I'm a humble
yeah,
guy. Money don't change me and doesn't make me. But if I lived as a person who had none and just a regular blue collar worker, I can't go out and buy myself an F-150 for 80, $90,000. I don't see it. I don't see how. I don't see how this push for electric cars with your electric vehicles at 50, $60,000 is feasible to normal people. You know what I mean? It,
I have a hard time after having done this for 43 years. I have a hard time defining what normal is anymore. What a
Mhm.
normal consumer would be today. When I started back in 1977 at a Nissan dealership, I mean, we had inexpensive cars up to the expensive Z cars.
Yeah,
You had entry level vehicles all the way up to exotic vehicles, and and so you could sell cars to anybody.
correct.
And and today it's like I don't know what a normal customer should look like because none I don't know how to. None of my friends can afford the stuff
Yeah, yeah,
as it's priced today.
correct.
I just don't get it,
Yeah.
and it's difficult for me to comprehend how this can continue down the same path for any extended period of time.
Yeah, it's unsustainable and something definitely have to change, and the change have to be with manufacturers. Unfortunately, I was listening to your show this afternoon. I didn't catch it live, but you
Hmm.
guys hit on a portion with there's no more affordable cars and OEMs want to make more expensive vehicles. Well, I've been to Geneva a couple of times and I've sat on those
Yes.
board meetings and I talked to OEMs, I talk to banks, and the message that I'm getting from them, why there's no affordable vehicles, is because production cost of expensive cars extremely similar to the cheap. I mean, amount of material they're using is similar to what
Hmm.
they will make a cheaper car, but labor is not the same. You know what I mean? Labor that goes into make I'm sorry, labor is on the same level and materials almost on the same level, but profits are not the same. They make more money on more expensive vehicles. Therefore, why would they make inexpensive vehicles if demand is still there? And demand is still there. America is so
Exactly.
divided. It's like 80-20, but that 20% of wealthy people, they're buying up. They're consuming like there's no tomorrow, and 80% of the population are left behind. But the
I
market is driven on that 20%.
I had a conversation with Jared Kalfas yesterday, and Jared is the president of Black Book, and um, part of the conversation was we keep saying that we need entry level vehicles, and he said, "I'm not going to share anything with you that I'm not supposed to share with you that I have one that I've gotten confidentially." He said, "But the reality is, until the demand changes, there is no reason for the manufacturers to address those lower profit margin, less expensive cars. And he said the only thing that will ultimately change the manufacturers to go back to entry level cars is when the demand drops for the cars that they've been building,
Sure.
and they haven't seen anything that indicates that that demand is going to drop.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it either. I'm seeing more of. You'll be surprised here, but auctions that I go to
Hmm.
on weekly basis, and I go to 2 auctions a week at the minimum. Um, and they sell a mixture of cars. They have luxury, exotic, hypercars, supercars, and regular entry level vehicles. It's an even split. It's a 50-50. And I'm seeing that. I mean, it boggles my mind because I'm seeing that now more than I've seen that before. Usually, before the pandemic, it was more entry level vehicles, cars that common people would buy. It was 80% to 20%, 20% being the
Hmm.
supercars, exotics, and ultra luxury vehicles. Now it's split 50-50. I mean, you got 50% of people, dealers who are buying exotic cars, and they're saying demand is there. I mean, it's selling like hotcakes. And the reason because you go out and buy that S class at the dealership new, it's like 150, 160,000 loaded, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Where you could go out and buy a 2 year old for, as a dealer, I could buy it for 75, 80 at the most, turn around and sell it for
Exactly.
100, and it's a deal to everybody. It's a deal to me, it's a deal to consumer. So they're selling them like hotcakes. Plus, you got another generation, which we need to touch on as well. You got this generation of young kids who are making quick money on internet, on social
Hmm.
media, and they're blowing it like there's no tomorrow. Like there's a tree growing in their house full of money. And they're buying these Lamborghinis, Bentleys, Bugattis, you name it. So dealers are buying it up because there's demand, especially big metropolitan areas like Atlanta dealers. I see a lot. I see New
Hmm.
York dealers a lot. I see Philadelphia dealers. People even from Miami come up north and buy cars, and we go there, and it's the same thing there in Miami when I go to auctions there for special cars, um, or Fort Lauderdale. It's crazy. The world flipped upside down. Car market is definitely not in line with normality, and I think it's only going to get worse from this point. That's my prediction. I don't think it's gonna correct itself within a year or two. I think we're in this rut for, like you said, till the end of the decade, and a lot of it has to do with the shortages that we had, and we'll continue to have them. And even now, like the news today with Toyota, I don't know if you heard about it. There was a couple of fires.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We touched on that on today's show.
Oh,
Yes.
I missed that. Well, since you know about it, that's one of the things that manufacturers don't count on and don't predict. And
Yeah.
these are things that keep side railing the car business, making already short supply even shorter. And it
Hmm.
drives, I mean, it sends a signal to the dealerships. We got fires. That means less production. That means, what are we going to do? We're going to raise our prices. We're going to negotiability score will be a lot lower. People will pay again those markups, so we're right back where we started, you know what I mean? And that's
Uh,
going to continue. It's just going to continue. Plus, you got political things that we are not going to get into, but I'll touch just a little bit on. World is
okay.
changing. It's changing completely. The West is becoming a little weaker. Maybe it's controversial. Some people won't agree with me, but it's losing its grip on a lot of natural material countries with natural materials that are needed to make these cars, especially electric cars, and that will
Hmm.
drive prices up as the cost will go up and materials will become scarce. uh, the cost of production will go up and MSRPs will go up. It will drive market even higher. So there's a lot of factors that go in, plus demand, plus interest, plus economy. I mean, these are the things that just will make people up more upset. I mean, sometimes I listen to you, and when you hear better to buy now than wait till tomorrow, sometimes I definitely agree with it. I mean, I look at it and I say, yeah, better buy now, pay a lower MSRP, or negotiate while you can, rather than wait and see what's going to happen. Yeah, it's a gamble. You may lose out. Maybe later it'll be a better deal, but at least you'll secure your car now and be certain that
Ex-
you could get it.
and it's so hard, as a consumer, it's so hard to make that decision because, we look at things you've spent a lot of years in the car business, so we look at things with a historical eye. We look at how things have transpired over the course of time, and that colors what we think the future is going to be. And none of what we see today correlates in any way, shape, or form what we had seen prior in the
Correct.
industry prior to that pandemic. And so I would always try to apply what I thought was logical thinking to what's going to happen. And it what did it take me, a year, 18 months, to realize you can't apply logic to an
No.
illogical
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. You're right.
You know, it, it
You're right.
it's been crazy.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a silly question
Sure.
about
Any question?
when you owned dealerships? Um, because let's face it, dealerships, I think, and I never owned one, so I always thought I should, but I never did. I never had the money, and I learned my lesson. I said, if I was as smart as I thought I was, well, the owner would be working for me. I wouldn't be working for the owner. So when you own dealerships, what was the hardest thing to convey to your team? Because it all filters from the top down, in my opinion. It is what goes on in a dealership is representative of what the dealer principal feels. So, how did you bring together a team to be able to run a store the way you wanted it to be run?
Easy. Well, my biggest concern at the dealership was when I became an owner was not
Hmm.
profit. That was second or maybe even third. My biggest concern as an owner was ethics. Make sure you're ethical, because last thing you
Yes.
want is to go to jail or have some kind of fines or issues with your manufacturer, lose your franchise dealer
Yes.
license, violate your agreement. These are the most important things that were, I would say, on every owner's mind, you know. But how I dealt with it was I hired a bunch of people that I worked with when I wasn't the owner, when I worked
Hmm.
as regular guy, and I observed who was ethical, who wasn't. And then when I started my automotive group, I brought these people in slowly but surely. I took
Hmm.
over existing group with some rotten apples, and slowly and surely replaced them one by
Of
one.
course.
You know, as you know, car business is high turnover all the time, returning people left and right. But it's always
Hmm.
for the best. Sometimes you make a bad decision, you turn people that you shouldn't have, but most of the time when people turn, there's a reason. And I
Hmm.
turn people from good to better, and I always improve my staff to be more moral, follow the laws, follow the rules. Make sure first you protect the dealership. That's your number one objective when you work here, and then make money and profit, stay profitable.
I always felt when I ran dealerships that my obligation to the owner was to make sure that we didn't do anything that would jeopardize his position.
Correct.
Okay, we were stewards of the company, and we had to make sure that there wasn't going to be any situation that came up where he would be in a position to perhaps lose his franchise. And and I'll share a story with you because it is difficult in dealerships for managers, owners, whoever, to know everything that's going on. You can express how you want things to work. Um, you can share with your employees how you want them to operate, and then sometimes there's people that just go out and do things that, well, they shouldn't do.
All the time.
We had a situation at the Nissan store that I ran outside of Atlantic City, and we had sold a 280Z or 280ZX to a customer, and he kept complaining about the transmission in the car, and we couldn't find anything wrong with it. This is how the story got to me eventually. And so the service manager, unbeknownst to anybody in sales, unbeknownst to the owner, decided, he said to the customer, he said, I want you to take out some of the new Z's, drive one, tell me which one you like. We'll take the transmission out of that one and we'll put it in your car. And he didn't clear this with anybody.
Wow.
And then he took that used transmission
And put
and had the tech put it in the new car and didn't tell anybody until one day after the fact, after we had sold that new car with a used transmission in it unknowingly, that the tech came to us and said, he was a whistleblower. He said, that's got a used transmission in it.
yeah,
Um,
franchise
which is
violation. Major,
absolutely,
major
it's
violation.
fraud. Yeah, I mean, my God, it was fraud. We sold a new car with used parts. Okay, that's fraudulent. We didn't know. And literally, I remember, we drove from South Jersey up to North Jersey to meet with an attorney up there who specialized in things like this, and ultimately, the dealership pled guilty. Um, which is not a good position to be in, but we
Yeah.
had negotiated with Nissan that they would allow us to keep the franchise because they could have taken it away from the
Easy.
owner. Um, and it's like we're trying to do things the right way, and yet,
Yeah. Some people
your
just, yeah,
service manager, yeah, let's do this. Ha- You know, ha- it's hard to keep your eyes on everything.
yeah, yeah.
And you had 42 stores. How the hell did you do that? How could you do that?
Well, I was a hands-on dealer principal. I went to every store. Um, I mean, if I didn't visit a store at least twice in a week, something
Uh-huh.
was wrong. I mean, people were calling me and saying, "Are you sick?" Plus I didn't. Well, I never acted like a dealer principal. I wasn't formal. Respect me. Clean up when I get the. I'm one of the guys. I'm always one of the
Yes.
guys. I relate to everybody. Was always down to earth. So people was they were at ease when they talked to me. I mean, um, I would sit at the tower. I would pencil deals with people. I would get into go on the floor, meet customers.
Mhm.
I wouldn't even tell them that I'm the dealer principal. I'm just an employee. I would close
Yes.
deals. I mean, I would show my team that I'm no different than you. I could relate to the cleaning person, which I've done too. I clean bathrooms right along my janitors, literally.
Yeah.
You know, just to show everybody that I'm no different. Not, money doesn't change anybody. I'm the same guy as you are, and I appreciate what you do. So people saw that, and they were less of a condescending or feeling like the man is taking advantage of me. It was more friendly atmosphere with employees, and employees were willing to work and put their hearts out because that's what people do when you have good environment and the owner appreciates what you do. I mean, that's what I think. That's one of the things. Another thing is that I was very hands-on. I would go through phone
Mhm.
calls, go through my emails, look at my shops, my collision centers, make sure that all my invoices, repairs, everything was paid. Talk to my, service advisors, so talk to my service managers, service director on a weekly basis. I would have meetings with GMs, GSMs, used car managers, go over inventory, use the new, go over contracts in transit, go over money due, go over outstanding bills, any problems, service problems, parts problems. I would be extremely hands on, go over inventory all the time, talk to everybody, literally. And that's how I think I gained the respect and got people to do what I needed them to do.
When I worked at the Penske organization in North Scottsdale at the Scottsdale 101 Auto Collection, which was, I think, the first real big um, Penske owned entity like that, especially because it was mostly luxury cars. And we had an area vice president, and John used to say, if there's ever a customer issue, handle it at the store level, because if you don't, when it reaches me, you're not going to like how much of your money I spend to correct it.
Yeah.
Was that you? I mean,
Yes,
did your
yes.
staff know whatever the problem was? Don't let it get to Igor because it's going to cost us way too much money if it does.
It's funny that you said that. My first conversation with Zach, when Zach called me, I told him the story that I had a customer one time who was passed on from manager to manager, from GSM to GM, and finally got to me. And I took the guy literally down on the floor. I didn't sit down with him at the meeting. I listened to his issues for 5 minutes. He told me his story. Instead of talking
Hmm.
to him, I took him right down to the sales floor. I pulled up my GM. I pulled up my four desk managers, my two closers, and my GSM. I put him in a room with the guy, with the
Uh
customer,
huh.
and I said, "His problem now, your problem. His problem is gonna get fixed 100%, but it's coming out of your pay, the store's gross pay, and
Yes.
we taking care of it." And from that point on, they knew that if it reaches to me, customer comes first. Even if the customer is wrong 100% and we know it, if it reaches to me and you guys couldn't solve it on the floor level, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. Because ultimately, I don't want bad rap. Because people, they could write whatever they want on social media, review, and make the story believable the way they want it to sound, and people will believe the consumer rather than the dealership. We are shady people. Nobody likes us as dealers. You know what I mean? So even if
Hmm.
we're right and we could prove that we're right, nobody cares. People will take consumer side. So to me, I'd rather make it right with the consumer, even if I lose a couple of grand here or there, but I'll have a happy consumer. I will have somebody on the road who will say, listen, I had a problem. I went to these guys, they fixed it, and now I recommend these guys to whoever wants to buy, and they'll bring me extra business. I'll make my money. I'm
You'll
not
make
losing. If I have to write down 10 grand in to fix a problem, yeah, it's 10 grand. I could write it off. I could make it up in other areas. But most importantly, my reputation is worth a lot more than 10 grand or 15
you're
grand.
you're not selling your soul for 10 or 15,000
No,
dollars.
not at all.
You're
I
not
mean,
selling what you've built
yeah. I mean,
for
I'm in the
10 or
business for a long
15,000 dollars.
haul. I'm not in it for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? And if I'm gonna be in the business for long haul, my reputation means everything to me. And dealers who don't do that and think that they could get by and make money and stiff somebody, and they have desires and goals to last in this business for a long time, they're not gonna last. Not gonna last.
I remember in the Phoenix market, we had Phoenix is really a great car market to sell in because public transportation sucks. Everybody needs at least two cars in their family, and some of the biggest dealers, volume wise, are in the Phoenix market.
Correct.
And I remember I worked for before it became Penske, it was United Auto Group. And the way we did things was entirely different than the way some of the other dealerships did things. And the way I equated it was some of these groups looked at how Phoenix was growing and they said, well, if we sell each person one car and the population continues to explode, we can make a lot of money and be here for quite some time. As opposed to, well, if we sold a few people a lot of cars, they never looked at it as we want to sell a few people a lot of cars. They just wanted to sell everybody one car and treat them so poorly that they knew nobody would ever come back for that second car, but they didn't care. They didn't need them to come back.
Yeah.
And that way of doing business never made sense to
Never.
me. It doesn't seem to want to lend itself to a long-term
Yeah.
strategy.
I mean, our business, and you've been in it for 43 years, Ray. It's all about repeat business. It's all about
Yes.
selling, upselling you more, putting you in and out of cars. And the best customers are the ones that's bought from you generationally, meaning their
Yeah.
family bought, their kids bought, and now their grandkids come in to buy. That's the best appreciation for what you do when you're a car dealer. And I know a lot of dealers who have it, but every time I've had these customers that would come back and say, "Well, my parents bought a car from you, now I'm buying," it would make my heart melt. And these are the
Yes.
people you even want to go even more out of the way. And I said on one of your news you could use live streams just not too long ago. I think yesterday I made a comment and I said, I can afford, literally, I can afford to sell every car that I ever had in every brand, literally at invoice. I'll still
Mm-hmm.
make money. And you know what? I'll get more, even if I sell it at flat invoice. No, just invoice. That's giving me all the money below the line and all the stair step bonuses and any other dealer spiffs and bonuses that I get here and there. It still gives me profit, but you know what else it gives me? It gives me opportunity for F&I people to make money, and also for me. It gives me an opportunity to have a service person who will come back to service and spend money. It gives me an opportunity, and this is the big one, for repeat business. They're going to remember
Exactly.
me 3 years, 4 years down the line. They're going to say, this guy gave me the best price, unbeatable, on car that I couldn't even come close to buy. And he'll come back and buy. And maybe a second time around, I could charge him a little more. Not MSRP or over, just a little more profit. And that
Sure.
person will have no problem giving it to me. No problem. You know, a
And
lot of
and
these
and that
guys nowadays that just, they think of tomorrow, just today, make a deal
yeah.
now. It's all about now, how much money I could make now. They're short-sighted. They're not seeing the future. Very
I
short-sighted.
mean, think about think about dock fees. I mean, my goodness gracious, like in Florida, I mean, the average dock fee in Florida
Oh
is
my god.
probably $999.
Yes.
So if you sold every car at your literal cost, you're still making a
You're
thousand
still,
dollars a copy.
listen, you know what we call, and again, I'm being something, a lot of dealers that may watch this, they may not like it, but you know what we call dock fee? Yacht fee. The dock fee literally paid for my yacht. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And at
absolutely.
$500-600 a dock fee, I think it's reasonable. It could be a little lower. It could be, a good dock fee is around 350, 350, four
Yes.
hundred. It's good for consumer. It's good for the dealership. It'll take care of all the paperwork, gives it a little profit, and it's right there in the middle. When you're starting to get up to $1,000 dock fee, that's just ridiculous. Sometimes you feel like me negotiating 1,000 off a car, which nowadays on some Toyotas you can't even get that. Plus a
I
thousand.
know.
Now you're paying over MSRP. And then if you get hit with port port installed options or dealer options that they load up, I mean, come on, that's gouging at its finest at this point. I mean,
Uh,
I don't support that at all. I mean, at my dealership, we never sold anything over MSRP unless it was a very limited supply vehicles, and it was mainly with luxury vehicles. I would never
mhm.
sell you a Honda, even if it was a SI or even an R model, R type. My
Mhm.
dealership sold them at MSRP. We could have put some dealer installed options with some fiber. What do they call it? Fiber
Carbon
plastic.
fiber.
Yeah,
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 carbon fiber and all that nonsense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes we put, maybe make a $1,500 in options, but we will give you value or rims, powder coated rims or whatever.
Mhm.
But we will give you value for your money, something that would actually be worth value, not this etch, not this cup suction that handle
Yeah.
clear nonsense that you
Yeah.
could buy for $5 online, but they're charging you $800-900, and on top of it, you're charging people this $900 dock fee. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It
Car business
it
is
was
off the rails.
4 years ago when you had your dealerships prior to COVID. I mean, if you sold anybody a car for MSRP,
Static. Home run.
everybody was eh, what everybody was
Pizza
high-five. I mean,
party.
it was like Yeah,
balloons
I mean,
blowing, pizza party, champagne cracking, Yeah,
and
MSRP deal was a thing. If you got it once, maybe you would get out of 100 deals. Let's say you had a Nissan store that would do 100 new cars. Out of 100 cars, you would see maybe 10, 15 deals at MSRP, and you were static, static. Wow, oh
sure.
my God, that brings my PVR up based on how much I make per car. But usually it's invoice maybe 100, 200 over, 500 if you're lucky.
It was it just amazes me as because the vast majority of dealerships were profitable 4 years ago
Yeah,
and selling hardly any cars at MSRP.
yeah,
And it amazes me as to how many dealers have forgotten what it was like just 4 years ago, and yet they were profitable and they could stay in business. And today it's like, well, not only do we want to be profitable, but we want to overcharge for things, and at a certain point the customer wakes up and goes, I'm never doing business there again.
correct.
Yeah,
That's
I just I knew part of my job as a GM, as a sales manager, was part of my job was to try and figure out how to create 150 new potential service customers every month. Okay, that was part of my job. It wasn't just, people think when you're a sales manager, all you're interested in selling cars.
no,
Well, no, you have to take an interest in every department, in the parts department, in the service department. You have to create opportunities for all the other departments. Um, and there are so many managers out there,
not to mention
at
HR
least.
too.
Oh
You got
yeah,
to deal with them.
I've dealt with HR once or twice.
Yeah,
They weren't always good
yeah. Accounts
experiences.
payable at almost every store I had. Accounts payable manager that I had, brutal, brutal to deal
Yeah,
with.
exactly. It's just there's so many managers that just don't see the bigger picture, and in a like a metro area like Washington D.C., there are and I probably shouldn't say it, but I'll say it anyway. There are so few good managers, okay, that actually stay put at a dealership. There's just way too many dealerships, and all the bad managers just complete like this circle, and they go from they go from one dealership to the next, to the next, to the next.
I spent
They're,
10 years in Washington D.C. area. I worked at
okay.
4 dealers in Virginia. I lived in Northern Virginia for 12 years.
Oh
And I
my.
worked, yeah,
Okay.
I worked at Browns camp for Browns. I worked for Oisman.
Okay.
I worked for American Service Center, which was Mercedes
Yes. Yes.
dealership in Arlington on Glebe
Yes.
Road, right next to Boston Mall. Um, I know the owner of Euro Motors. I know the store in Tyson's Corner, Mercedes store. I mean, I know BMW of Fairfax. Lindsay, I
And
know
and
really well. I know Coons.
and so what I'm
Yeah.
saying is true, that the managers, hardly any
I know a
managers
lot
stay
of people
put.
in that area. A lot of managers, a lot of GMs, and you're right. A lot of turnovers. A lot of turnovers with management. People traveling from dealer to dealer, from automotive group to automotive group, because it's unstable. You know.
Yeah, and I never quite understood that in that market, because it's a good car market. It's a great car market.
DC is
And you
probably one of the best markets. I'm sorry for interrupting you, Ray.
No, that's you're go on.
Uh, um, DC is one of the best markets, and here's the reason why. Because every 4 years, administration changes in White House. Your
Yes.
Congress and all. So all people come out, new people come in. They all buy up nice cars. Not just luxury, any car. So it's
Yes.
constant turnover in the area. Plus it's expanding and it's building, and it brings a lot of I would say techie people in techie, college, a lot of college oriented kids. So it's constant flow of new people, potential customers. But a lot of
One
dealers
of
don't see that. They don't see the potential.
one of the reasons that we moved there from Arizona, and we moved there during the Great Recession, was, as I said to my wife at the time, I said, the government's not contracting. You know, if there's one place in the country where there's always going to be money to be spent, it's in the Washington D.C. area.
Correct. Very
And
wealthy, influential area.
oh my god, it's crazy, and the size of some of the stores are crazy. Um, it's a beautiful. I'm glad I don't live there anymore. Uh,
Well,
but
Bethesda is a
but that
nice place to live. Very nice city. It's busy.
it,
It's different than where you at.
well, yes, where I'm at is very slow and not nearly as congested. Bethesda is beautiful. I will say that it is a beautiful area. It's just too congested for me. Um, you know,
I hear you on that one.
and I will share this with you. I loved having my son at the Jersey Shore for the summer. And I loved when my daughter and her husband would come up to the shore, and I dearly miss all of them. And I think to myself, okay, should I get an apartment in DC? And and every day, thankfully, I talk myself out of it. But I miss my children. I feel like I want to be closer to my children. And how many kids do you have?
I have two. I have a
Bless
daughter.
your heart.
I have a daughter who's
Okay.
20, gonna turn 28 in less than a month, and I have a son who's
Okay.
26.
Okay. So, like Zach, because Zach just turned 28 and Dara just turned 30 in September. We had kids at the same time. The only difference is I'm 72 and you're 40 something. Uh,
There you
you
go.
figured out how it worked better than I did and sooner than I did. Uh, oh my goodness. If if I asked you, because we're at about the end of our show, if I asked you, Igor, to explain to our audience what it is that attracted you to when we were YAA and now we're Car Edge, and to my son, and he seems to come up in every one of these episodes and he's never in them. But what is it that led you to us and led you to want to really participate as fully as you do in what it is that we're building and in our community? And can you share that with us before we go?
Sure, absolutely. Um, I started looking at. I found myself in a situation with a lot of free time on my hands. So I started looking into YouTube videos, playing around, watching different videos,
Hmm.
entertaining myself, things like that, just killing the time. And I ran into a couple of car channels, which always intriguing because I'm a car guy.
Sure. Yeah.
I watched one channel, one another. You gave it a few days here, a few days there. These people not sincere. They're just here for build a name for themselves or make money. Moved on. I found you guys. I watched your few videos and then went and looked at your original video, which intrigued me. And I said, well, these guys are more real. They're more honest, and they are in it for to I think empower consumers, teach them the
Hmm.
right way, and show them what it is to be on the inside. Explain them how things work, and lead people in the right direction to correct this market, correct this. I would say culture of going out and shopping for cars completely wrong way and getting ripped off. And that's what intrigued me. And more I start listening to you guys and hearing what you have to say and watching what you guys are doing, the more I decided that that's the way. uh, I believe in the same ethics, and I'm gonna align myself with these guys and help them any way I can. I mean, I just saw more very genuine people, genuine talks, genuine videos, and that's what clicked me. And here I am, 2 years later. I joined you guys exactly 2 years in August. It was 2 years. So little over 2 years
Look,
now. Almost
you
every day
you
I'm
had.
here. Almost.
I know you are. You are. You're like a godsend to me,
Thank you.
and to the organization. You really are. I mean, people probably think that we pay you. We don't,
No, no,
at least not that I know
no,
of.
no.
Um,
Other than
and
friendship, nothing happening.
and it's the your willingness to help our community members find better deals, give them the inside dope as to what's going on, to share your experiences. It just from the bottom of my heart, it means the world to me
Thank
that
you.
you would do that. That we've connected in such a way that you feel compelled to be a big part of what we do, and I cannot thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for being part of this podcast today, um, and I truly look forward to what the future holds for Car Edge and Igor Koske and everything in between.
If I may, Ray, I'll say a couple of things myself as well.
Please,
And as you were thanking me for being part of Courage and YA, I want to turn around and thank you guys because you given my life another purpose. You've given me so much entertainment that I can't thank you enough for. Plus, uh, I want to thank uh, your son, who is a blessing to watch, and I enjoy every minute of it. And I'm very proud of him. I know you're his father. You're proud of him for many reasons, but I'm watching him grow, and he's just becoming so successful. And I wish him even more success. And I wish I could do more what I've done, because to me it's just joy to be a part of you guys and what you guys do. It's I think you guys changing the market, changing the world, revolutionizing the car industry, and it'll go a long way. And rewards are there, and it'll just get more and more. I think you guys are godsend yourselves.
well, thank you. That means the world to us. Thank you, Igor, for being here. Um, and we look forward to. I have no idea who Justice has lined up for me for our next guest on our next podcast, but I'll tell you what, Justice keeps me busy.
That's good. You need to stay
Yeah,
busy. You're a young, healthy man.
absolutely.
Stop
I'm
retiring yourself. You're a young man. 72 is nothing but a number.
well, that's the way I feel. I feel like I'm still 17, so
There you
I
go.
got a long way to go.
There you go. If you got to meet and hit the bar, get some whiskey shots.
I'm in. I'm in. I
I'm
got to get
into.
up to the Boston area. We'll do it.
There you go.
Yep. Thank you again, Igor.
Thank you so much for having me on.